Hello everyone, this is Ms. Smith, and the purpose of this video is to provide an overview of the semi-formal report assignment. Let's get started. So this Word document is one that you'll want to print and keep handy so that you can refer to it often when it comes to the semi-formal report assignment. Keep in mind, the semi-formal report is a 10 to 12 page major assignment in the English 165 course, and that this assignment is worth 20% of your grade in the class. Now, if I were a student, that would make me panic, right? It's a big deal assignment, a huge page count, and it could really make the difference in me passing or failing the course. I understand feelings of panic. However, what I want you to know is that I have created this assignment to give you the best possible chance for success. The best possible chance for success. So that's why you need to have this overview handy so that you can refer to it. You want to read through it very carefully because I walk you step by step through the process to complete the semi-formal report, and I give you the guidelines and instructions so that you know exactly what it is I'm looking for in this report. I completely take the mystery out of it, okay? And so do your part by getting a copy of this assignment and referring to it regularly. Okay, so let's take a look at it in this video, okay? I start off with the required sections for the report. And so you see in this left column, I give you page numbers that you can use for the report. In the middle column, the section column, those are the actual sections that you need to include as major sections for the report. And then in the far right column, I give you the textbook reference pages where you can see examples of those sections in your textbook. Okay, and so refer to that regularly, especially if you need to see how something is done in the textbook to kind of give you a visual. So in terms of the assignment guidelines, what you're doing is you're creating a long report. Okay, and that long report will provide information about a specific job that interests you or pertains to your career path. And so we'll go through this step by step. Okay, and it'll help you understand more of what the assignment is about, and hopefully it won't be so scary once we've gone through this document. Okay, so step one, first step of the semi-formal report actually isn't the semi-formal report. It is a different assignment called the proposal memo. Okay, so you must create a proposal memo in order to gain approval for your job shadow idea. Okay, and so you cannot begin work on the semi-formal report until you have submitted a proposal memo and received approval from me about your job shadow idea. Now, just in case you hadn't read about this yet in our class content on the page yet, if you haven't read this part yet, there is a job shadow, right? And so the job shadow is the heart of the semi-formal report. And again, the purpose of the proposal memo is for you to tell me where you want to do your job shadow so that I can either give approval for that idea or tell you that it is not approved and you would need to find another idea. Okay? And so in the past, students have conducted a job shadow with a company the student wants to work for when he or she graduates, with a relative or family friend who is currently in a work position that interests the student, or with a fellow employee or supervisor at the student's current job. And that individual must have a different job title from you, the student. For the job shadow, you must schedule a minimum 45-minute visit to a job site and shadow one individual, and that is what we're going to call your contact person. During that time, you'll need to ask questions and take notes on your contact person's job duties and work-related activities. The information you gather will be central to your semi-formal report. You must also hold a follow-up interview no longer than 15 minutes that can be conducted in person, via phone, or via email after you've already done your job shadow. So the job shadow comes first. That's the minimum $45 minute visit to the job site. And That's central, that's key, okay? And it can be longer, but it has to be at least 45 minutes long. Then after that, you can do your follow-up on another day. A couple of days later would be fine, but you definitely want to let your contact person know that you need both things, that you need that minimum 45-minute visit, and that you also need the 15-minute follow-up. And again, that follow-up interview can be done in person, it can be done via phone, or you can send them some questions via email and ask that they respond to you. Okay? Um, and you may want to check with the company or individual that you have in mind for your job shadow to see if it's even possible to do a job shadow with that company before you complete your proposal memo. So if you have a place in mind, you may just want to ask someone first if it might be possible to do an assignment like this at their company. Some companies may not allow it, okay? Most companies, I think, probably would. And if your first choice for a job shadow will not work, move on to another possibility quickly, because remember, you need to submit the proposal memo in order for you to begin work on the semi-formal report. At this point, you don't want to set up the job shadow though, right? You don't want to do that because you need to make sure you've gotten approval first. And so you're just trying to see if it's possible to conduct a job shadow there. You're creating the proposal memo to tell me what you have in mind, and then I'm going to either approve or disapprove your job shadow idea, okay? And at that point that you receive approval, then you can begin working on the semi-formal report assignment. Okay, and so more information is in the proposal memo overview document, and in that video that's also a part of this week's content. So step 2, once your proposal memo is approved, conduct your job shadow, right? Makes sense. You want to make sure that you keep certain things in mind. And you want to try to make arrangements to visit the company 1 to 2 weeks in advance. You never want to contact someone and then ask if you can show up the next day, right? You want to be courteous. You don't want your credibility to go down. And so you want to give some time there for them to do what they need to do to prepare for your visit. Okay, we've already talked about the follow-up interview, but you also want to make sure that you arrive at least 10 minutes early to the job site. You don't want to be late. And there's a link here, and I will actually put it in our weekly content as well, for guidelines on dressing business casual. So that's usually a safe bet when you're going to a company as a student to conduct something like a job shadow. But definitely ask your contact person if there is a specific set of attire guidelines that you need to follow to be on that job site. You want to come prepared to take written notes and keep up with your notes, because if you lose your notes, you would probably have to do the job shadow all over again, and that would definitely diminish your credibility. So chances are, if you lose your notes, then you're out of luck, okay? And you don't want that to happen. So make sure you take written notes and keep up with them. Step number 3, you want to complete the discussion section next, because it is the heart of your semi-formal report. Now here's where this 10 to 12 page report is going to become less scary. The discussion section is 2 to 4 pages, and it is based on your job shadow. That is the heart of your report. The 10 to 12 pages includes all those other pages that are part of those sections, right? So that includes your letter of transmittal, your title page, your table of contents, your list of illustrations. All of these other sections are added into that 10 to 12 page count. And so the heart of your report, right, is going to be the discussion section, and that's only 2 to 4 pages. So it's not like you're writing a report that is, you know, completely 10 to 12 pages of just you writing about the job shadow. That part is only 2 to 4 pages long. So hopefully that takes some of the fright out of an assignment this size. Okay, but you want to complete that discussion section next, because your information from your job shadow will be fresh. Okay, after that, move on to your references section. Okay, you must have at least 3 sources documented in your report using MLA format. You have to have a jobs analysis. We'll do our jobs analysis assignment in just a little while, probably a couple of weeks from now, and I will show you how that assignment will make your life easy for the semi-formal report. You want to include a citation for your follow-up interview with your contact person. I'll also talk with you about that later on. And then you want to make sure that you have credible information from at least one secondary source. That could be the company's website or a news story about the company, something along those lines, something that's credible information that relates to the company that you can use. A lot of times students will go to the company's website and look at something like their About Me page, maybe history on the company that they may have on their website, and they may use that as some useful background information about the company they've conducted the job shadow with in their semi-formal report. So that's a good route to take. You must properly cite all references according to MLA format and include in-text citations in the report per the OC Tech plagiarism policy guidelines. And also rely on your textbook, okay, because your textbook has a really good MLA section that provides the correct format for different types of citations. Okay, so refer to your textbook as well. I will also give you some online sources that you can refer to. Step 5. Complete the conclusion and recommendation sections. Now let's let you go back and read over that on your own, but essentially the conclusion section is a paragraph that will summarize your report. Okay, and the recommendation section, you want to list that in bullet points. Okay, and both of these are on the same page. So your conclusion and your recommendation sections are both on the same page. And then with your recommendations, you're listing recommendations of what a person should know if they are interested in working in this particular career field, right, that you've done your job shadow on. So that's the focus of your recommendation. Okay, and so step 6 is to complete the introduction. You don't want to start with the introduction, right, because you need your discussion section first so that you know what it is you're writing about. Then you can kind of come back to some of those earlier sections. So step 6 will be to complete the introduction. Now in your introduction, I want you to have 2 main parts. Okay, and you need to have subheadings for each of these parts. You need your purpose statement, and then you need your industry background. Your purpose statement should state your academic major, why you chose your field of study, and why you are interested in the career in which you've based your semi-formal report. Your major and your job shadow may be 2 different fields, and that's okay. All right, that's perfectly fine. So for example, I had a student once who was a business major, but her plans for a job shadow with a business fell through. And so she had to choose something else. So she ended up doing her job shadow with a librarian. And so her major is business. She states that in her purpose statement, but the focus of her semi-formal report was with a librarian, and that's perfectly fine. Okay, so you want to make sure you include your purpose statement. And then you need to have a subheading titled Industry Background. And this section should include information from the jobs analysis and at least one visual or graphic item. Okay, and so when we do the jobs analysis assignment, we'll understand a little bit more of that, but that's what you want to include in the industry background section. And it should be based not on your major, but on the job that you've done your job shadow on. Okay, it should be based on that field of study. Step number 7 is to complete the abstract. Your abstract is important because it summarizes your report. Okay, and that's a reason why it needs to be one of the last sections that you write. And again, this is an important section. Not every member of your audience will read your entire report, but almost everyone will read the abstract. Okay, so let's say you're writing a report in the workplace and you have this, let's say, 15-page report. You're giving it to your supervisor. Your supervisor more than likely will turn to your abstract. The abstract should provide a good summary, like I just said, of your report. And in the case of this assignment, it's also going to give us information on the recommendations, what we recommend. And so by reading your abstract, the reader, the recipient, the audience member does not need to go through all 15 pages of your report, all 10 to 12 pages of your report. 15 we use for our example just now, but in this assignment, all 10 to 12 pages. You don't have to go through all of that. They don't have to read every single word in order to understand the outcome of your report. So that abstract becomes very important. And I'm giving you some very specific, detailed guidelines for how to write your abstract. And so I want you to follow this exactly as I have it stated here. Now we're going to follow ABC format. So we want to do this in 3 paragraphs. Okay, an abstract, a body, and then a conclusion paragraph. In the first paragraph, tell the reader the topic of your report. Okay, you can also indicate that you are writing this for a class assignment in the study of professional communication. In the second paragraph, provide a brief overview of the work you completed in assembling this report. And that would include the job shadow, the follow-up interview, any other research that you've done. You're summarizing this, so keep this paragraph brief. In the third paragraph, this section should summarize your recommendations for a person pursuing a career in this field. Draw from your existing recommendation section. Remember, we should have done the conclusion of recommendation section. So you can draw from that recommendation section. But don't add bullet points to this paragraph. This is a summary, so keep this paragraph simple, in paragraph form, and to the point. And so that's exactly how your abstract should be written. Step 8, complete all other sections of the report. So you'll need to have a table of contents, and of course that means that your report, your entire semi-formal report, should have page numbers. Now, it's fine if you don't start with page 1 on the cover page, right? You can follow the guidelines that I've given you here for the page numbers. You can deviate from this as well. So if you want to begin on page 1, let's say your table of contents on page 1, list of illustrations on page 2, that's perfectly fine, okay? The only thing I want you to be mindful of, I want you to be mindful that your page numbers appropriately correspond to the right page. So for example, if you tell me that your discussion section begins on page 7, and when I turn to your page 7, your discussion section is not there, right? That's going to diminish your credibility. So you want to make sure that you are going back and checking that all of the page numbers in your table of contents appropriately match the actual page numbers in your report. You need to create your list of illustrations. And so we can refer to the book for an example of the list of illustrations, but essentially it's a table of contents for any visuals or graphics that you include in your report. Okay, so you're not putting the visual in the list of illustrations. You're not actually putting the graphic there. You're just telling the reader where the graphics are located in your report. So you want to make sure you do that in the list of illustrations. You need to write a letter of transmittal. And so the letter of transmittal is a lot like a cover letter for this report. This is where you're telling the reader that you've finished the report, essentially, okay? And you'll feel like you're writing the same thing over and over again between your letter of transmittal and your abstract, and you essentially are, okay? However, your letter of transmittal must be addressed to me, your instructor. Follow the same structure guidelines for writing the abstract, but in the third paragraph of your letter of transmittal, tell me what you learned as a result of completing the semi-formal report assignment. I'll say that again. Your letter of transmittal and your abstract, you're going to feel like you're writing the same thing over and over again, and essentially you are, okay? And so what you can do is take the first and second paragraph from your abstract and use those first 2 paragraphs for your letter of transmittal. But when it comes to the third paragraph for your letter of transmittal, I want you to tell me what you learned as a result of completing the semi-formal report assignment. Your letter of transmittal is a letter, so it should follow proper letter format. And again, I will provide you with the contact information for me because this letter should be addressed to me. You want to write your title page and follow the example in the textbook on page 367 for a guide. And if you need to include a glossary, include it after the recommendation section. So when would you need to include a glossary? Well, you would want to include a glossary to explain terms that may be unfamiliar to the reader. Okay, so you want to make sure that you assess what your audience already knows. Okay, and if it's information that's just like not common knowledge, maybe highly technical terms, something along those lines, jargon, remember we talked about jargon, then you want to make sure that you include a glossary that's going to explain what those terms mean. And if you do that, you want that section to come after your recommendation section. Okay, so just a couple of other things to note. Keep in mind that you are creating a professional document and your credibility as a professional communicator is always at stake. I've been saying this all semester, right? We already know this. And so be careful to proofread your writing and avoid grammatical and style errors. You want to single space all of the sections in your report, okay? Single spacing is common in workplace communication. Use effective page design. Be consistent with your use of headings and subheadings. So for example, every section heading that is used in your report, we can again go back here to look at our section headings, right? These are our section headings. Every section heading should look the same on the page. Okay, and so some of these you may not need a section heading for. So you don't really need a section heading for letter of transmittal. Okay, you don't need something that says title page. And so let's say it begins with table of contents where you actually have that section heading on the page. So let's say all of our section headings on the page will be in Times New Roman, bold style, size 24. Let's just say, for example, okay? So if I put my table of contents in Times New Roman, bold style, 24 size type, and center it on the page, I need to do the same thing with the major heading for list of illustrations. I need to do the same thing with abstract, the same thing with introduction, the same thing with discussion, so on and so forth, right? It needs to be consistent, okay? And so when your document is consistent, you tell the reader how to respond to it. You tell the reader what to expect. So when the reader sees a title at the top center of the page and it is in Times New Roman size 24 in bold style, they're going to know that that's the start of another section heading, okay, because of how you've set up that document, because of your page design. And so you want to be consistent. All of the subheadings should look identical, okay? All of the body text should look identical. Don't switch fonts within the same type of section, okay? So just make sure that you're mindful of your page design. You will most likely have questions along the way, and I am more than happy to help you figure out how to be successful with this assignment. So if you have questions, please let me know. Okay, please don't wait till the last minute. If you wait till the last minute, you may put yourself in a situation where even I can't help you, okay? Because you may be so low on time that there isn't, much that I could do to help you. So make sure that you give yourself ample time and let me know where you have questions, okay? And keep in mind, just another last reminder, that you cannot begin work on your semi-formal report until you submit a proposal memo and gain my approval for your proposal memo, okay? I want to make sure that the assignment that you're intending to do, the job shadow you're intending to do, is something that would actually work for this type of assignment that we are creating here in this semi-formal report. Okay? Again, if you have questions, please let me know. And I look forward to reading your proposal memos. Take care.